Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the podcast, Paranormal Karen. We are in October, if you're not listening to this on the rebroadcast. And my guest today, very excited. A lot of you heard a little while back, I did an interview with Kylie Harris, and we talked about spirit emergency, spirit breakthrough. And that particular podcast spoke to so many of you. You are going to love what I have for you today. Julie Rieger is my guest. She has a new book coming out. Julie, is it October 7th or 9th? I wrote down 7th, but I saw 9th on Amazon.
It's October 9th.
October 9th. It is called The Ghost Photographer. A Hollywood executive discovers the real world of make-believe. I love that. It's the inspirational memoir and journal as Julie journals through the cosmic wilderness where she discovers her psychic abilities after the devastating loss of her mother. And I'm going to give the book a compliment. And Julie, you probably picked it up right there. I'm very dyslexic, so I don't read a lot. This book was the format and the way you put it together. I found it to be a great, easy read, like talking to a friend. It was funny. It was perfect. So
Karen,
welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, welcome to the show, to Paranormal Karen.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
I have so
I'm
much.
so excited. And do you mind though if I just respond to what you said about the writing style and the pace?
Sure.
Because and thank you. That is actually the greatest compliment that I could get, because I was so incredibly nervous about writing a book. And you know, I'm a girl from Oklahoma. There's nothing terribly special about my background or my education, to be quite frank. And I was really nervous because, you know, so many people talk about like it's literature, and I'm like, no, I'm just going to write how I talk.
Right.
And
perfect.
Because I didn't write this for, you know, I didn't write this for book reviewers. I wrote this for regular people like me.
Right. There's so much, this is a paranormal podcast. So many people are going to relate to what you're talking about and love the journey. And I know you're going to do a million probably press releases and podcasts as you go, but my people are your people. So this is a perfect place. It was written perfectly. And you know what's funny? Sort of jumping in, to where I'd love to start. I kind of want to start I'm going to call it we call it spirit breakthrough here, spirit emergency, of who you were, because you've had two doors to come out of, very bravely.
The two doors that you mean, the two opportunities that I had to?
Yes, the two, I would say, coming out of the closet as a paranormal person.
Oh, yes. Now, this book is about coming out for the second time in my life.
Right.
So, this is definitely the second time. But what's interesting about coming out, because I am a lesbian and I came out at 23, is that when you come out about anything in life, is you don't just come out once, you come out like 1,000 times. And so God knows I've come out at least 1,000 times about being gay, and I've come out now about 100 times about being a spiritualist or a ghost photographer or an empath or whatever, you know, in that whole otherworldly category. And, you know, coming out can be a very scary thing. And I was obviously comfortable doing this because I feel like I'm a pro now at coming out. But you never know how people are going to respond. You know, it's really like, I was so happy to talk to you, and you're my first podcast.
Oh, nice.
So I am so thrilled to talk to you. I love what you do, and I love that you're funny. Because I fancy myself to be funny too.
Yes, you are.
But I'm not going to compete with you, but I do fancy myself to be funny. But I think that, you know, it was comfortable for me to talk about another topic that, let's just call it taboo, because, you know, there are a lot of haters out there about the paranormal, you know, and sometimes you don't know who you're rolling up to. So I learned some really great skills, you know, coming out as gay, to read faces, and to at least know where I'm headed.
Oh, interesting.
But I'm coming out to everybody now.
Well, you know, it's funny because people think Hollywood is this ultra liberal heaven where we all wear T-shirts that say, if you didn't vote for Hillary, you won't work for me. And it's not true. It's a business, you know?
It is a business. It is a business. I mean, I can't lie. I had a really great experience, and all my coming outs here is probably why I landed in Hollywood in the first place. But there certainly is, you know, we represent the population just like any other business does, really. You know, I think that what's so upside down about ours is that it's more the conservative side is more the silence. Or it was more silent than the liberal side. But, you know, there have been people, I mean, I will tell you, I've run across at work who kind of look at me funny. Yeah. 99.9% of the time, it's not that, because I already had established credibility, and that's actually what so many of my folks at work really like about the book, is they're like, God, all this must be true because you don't lie. And I'm like, no, I don't.
No, and you're not airy-fairy.
No. Oh, no. You know, like I said, I'm a girl from Oklahoma. I was raised in the Episcopal Church. My mom was a Republican, but she's like an old Republican, you know, like one of those Republicans. Sorry to anybody who's listening that I offended. I didn't mean to offend you, but my mother is an old Republican. But, you know, in a small town, you know, that was B.F. Goodrich was a tire plant is what propped up the town. So I don't come from a long line of hippies. In fact, no line of hippies.
Right.
Which I love hippies. I would have been thrilled to be raised a hippie.
I say you have an inner hippie.
I think I do.
Yeah. That's where we're all going in this scene. So you're a regular girl from Oklahoma working in Hollywood. You're working as a Hollywood executive. Now, your story begins with your mom.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I lost my mom in 2011 to Alzheimer's. And, you know, there's a lot of reasons that I wrote the book, and one was actually, for anyone who is struggling with Alzheimer's, with a loved one that has it, that, this might be a nice break for them. I mean, I know it's not a large audience that I'm speaking to, but it's sadly getting larger, because there was nothing out there. There was nothing for me to even relate to anybody, to even hear a story, because, you know, and I guess it was 2000 is when we really started seeing it come on with Mom, and nobody was really talking about it. But she was, you know, she's the woman that showed me and taught me unconditional love. And to feel like that's gone in your life, you know, I was grieving heavily and hard and didn't stop. I mean, I think I talk about I wore a cloak of grief for years after that. But then my journey began. Actually, my journey began before, but the big turning point for me was really when I found my first ghost in a photograph. And it wasn't like I was searching on the internet to find ghosts in photographs. It was taken at my own house.
Wow.
And then I ended up taking, and I'm not kidding you, upwards of 9,000.
That makes sense.
Myself. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's like I have a collection of ghost photographs now, and I have names for them too. It might sound a little weird, but they all have names. Not all 9,000, but the big ones do. But that was, you know, I was very fortunate to have some psychic Sherpas in my life prior to that, where I felt like I was more witnessing kind of what could happen and could be in the magic, because I'm going to call it magic, of the overall universe. But it wasn't until that ghost photograph is when I really started coming into my own supernatural powers.
Right.
That was a turning point.
And so that was sort of your, like I said, my friend has me now using the phrase spirit emergency. So that is where your story begins. And probably like most of the people in my crowd, you get obsessed with it. That's not, all those photos, and people don't understand. You got to look through all those photos too. That's a big obsession.
Totally. And I have the right personality for it. But it was very much a spirit emergency because I was so profoundly sad. And I was worried during that time. I'm like, am I going to be like this the rest of my life? I mean, that's what it felt like. And when spirituality, you know, came in, that, you know, and I started seeing the ghost and started taking, chakra classes and crystal classes and all of these things that I had never done before. that's when I started feeling better. And the funny thing about those dang ghost photos is it was a time in my life where I felt invisible, and I started seeing things that were invisible to other people. Mm-hmm. And I'd actually, for the first time in that point in years, felt special. As sad, pathetic, and strange as that all may sound, that's how I felt.
You know what?
I felt it was big.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It was big.
It's like being in on a club that nobody else knows about.
Not only they can't see it, but the cool thing is with the photographs, I spent, a few 3-4 months were the only ones who really saw the photographs. My wife, Suzanne, who is all throughout the book, and she's amazing and patient and wonderful, and we've been together over 25 years. And then our friend, Brenda Villa, who is this super psychic woman. She's incredible. Not many people outside of them saw it because I was like, oh, God, am I going to be judged, right? That goes back to the coming out again idea of the story. But when I would show people, what was so interesting to them was like, wow, this is proof. They're like, this is, they maybe didn't believe or didn't think, or maybe a fence sitter, but then they started going, oh, well, I can't dispute this. Right? I mean, because a photograph is indisputable. And when somebody said, well, I don't believe that's real, I said, well, have you ever been to Iceland? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, how do you know it's real? They're like, well, I've seen photographs. I'm like, well, there's my point. Yep. The other side is I have photographs that can show you the other side is very real, just like Iceland.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny with skeptics too. It's kind of like sometimes they're going to believe before they even see the picture. They're going to believe or not believe. They've already decided sometimes before they even see the picture.
There's no doubt. And, and I actually understand why. Because I didn't write this book to convert anyone. That was not my interest. My interest was really for validation for folks like us, right? So we can all keep the conversation going. Why I love what you do, Karen, so much is that you talk about it, because when we talk about this, our bonds become tighter with one another. We learn more. We understand more. Our conversations, don't stay on the surface. They go deep. But I understand why the skeptics are the way they are, because when you have a belief system, and someone tries to disrupt that belief system, if you allow it, it can send you into chaos. Mm-hmm. For me, when you talk about a spirit emergency, I was in a state of emergency from who I was before, which was that profound grief. I was already in chaos. So there was no disrupting any belief system, because I think I pretty much shed whatever belief system I had. I had to.
Right.
Because I had to move out of where I was. Does that all make sense?
It does. And you moved into everything. And that's what is, it's funny because I remember hearing on Art Bell years ago, he would always interview this woman, and she was a devout Catholic. And she said if she saw a UFO, that her life would be destroyed, because it wasn't in her a Bible or in her wheelhouse. And I think that is a lot of skeptics. And sometimes skeptics also just, not all, but some of them are just angry at God.
They are. They very much are. Is that when you you brought up spaceship, is this time to introduce to your audience that I have a photograph of a gray alien?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. I'm Julie Rieger. I not only take pictures of ghosts, but I also have a few shots of gray aliens, which is strange, right? I mean, there's no doubt that my awakening is a strange awakening, and in it came some aliens in my backyard.
Oh, and these are the people. They're nodding their head right now. We get it. Aliens,
yeah.
And aliens are my. I have my podcast is still, I think, 50, 60 episodes in now. But aliens are the only thing that really I cringe a little bit. I'm like, I'm not that comfortable with that particular topic. But yeah, how do you feel about aliens?
It's funny that you say that. Because I think our belief systems are such where, it's easier for people to accept the idea that you have a photograph or contact or something with a spirit of a deceased loved one, right? I mean, because that still feels safe in connection to the human experience.
Yeah.
Aliens are not part of the human experience, and I think that is where possibly you're feeling like there is a gap there, because you're like, wait a minute, I might believe that they're out there, but do I need to believe that they're here? And I think that is where that disconnect comes from. And those who have actually seen, spaceships or experienced any alien type of, I don't know, let's call it experience. I'm no pro at this. That they keep that inside. They do not tell.
Right.
They do not speak of it. I mean, talk about a taboo. That one, to me, from my experience so far, has been the greatest taboo, even though people believe that there is life outside of this planet. It's a really interesting thing.
Yeah. And
so my opinion on it is, listen, I got a picture of it. How can I not believe it's true?
Right.
Right? Did I conjure one in and say I want to see an alien because I was curious? No. But it was, I don't think I intentionally conjured any of these guys in, but do I believe? I do. I do. How could I not? How could I not believe in anything? That's what's also happened to me is that, once I shed my rigidity about any belief system I had, I ended up in a place today where I actually sit here with no judgment.
Yeah,
I said with none.
I'm with you on that. I believe it's all there. Like I always say to people, I believe everything. You tell me you have elves in your cupboard, I'll go look. I'm with you.
I want to go to that house and go see those elves. I love elves.
I know.
I want an elf in my cupboard.
Yeah, and people know my obsession is fairies because I had I do a funny bit on stage. I'm still waiting to tape it for my audience, but I had a very negative experience with a fairy attachment. But the first thing that I saw about UFOs and aliens was Travis Walton from A Fire in the Sky. I saw him speak, and it was one of the most terrifying things. I know everything is good and bad, but his story really was like, ooh, this is not, it was so creepy. Do you remember that movie?
I don't, and I should. What is wrong with me?
It was in the 70s, but if you get a chance, it's still a great movie. His real story is just, it's sort of our thing about being out of control, and somebody else in control.
It's chaos and it's control, and I think the way that aliens have been portrayed in my industry, there's not very many friendly ones that you see, and they have more powers and they can, take over the planet. So I think there's so much of that mythology that's attached to them, right. That it makes it kind of scary. But I seriously am in a place I can't. It's hard for me to dispute it. The funny thing, by the way, about fairies is that I have a photograph of a fairy that I did not include in the book because it was kind of hard to see when it gets reproduced. And I will email it to you. And I'm making a note to myself to email you this picture of a fairy. It's a he. He looks like a he. And he has a face that only a mother fairy could love. It was the ugliest fairy I have ever seen. But you can see, it's a funny. So I'll send it to you. And you tell me what you see. But to me, he was a fairy, and my wife loves fairies. She's very light and airy, and sees auras and colors and. Everything to her is, unicorns and rainbows and fairies, and I'm more dark and earthy and,
Oh, that's right. So was your wife already somewhat on board before you had this experience, or tell us more about that?
Suzanne has always believed. She kept a lot of it to herself, but she's always kind of seen things and felt things. She's always been really sensitive in her life. I mean, she never used it in a way of, oh, my friend's in peril, let me go tap into these powers. It was more of a surprise when they would kind of come about for her. So all of this, I think, for her and for actually us together, it drew us closer. I think we are such a great case of having dealt with tragedy and ended up making the best of it. We ended up in a better place than where we started, even though we've been together for so long. Because I think what happened is she saw me come into my own. She's never seen me more comfortable. She's never seen me happier. She's never, when I say I don't judge, I don't judge. I know I've said it twice, and I can fall into that I protest too much, but I really don't. And she sees this, I'm soaring more. She sees how my work has been. It's no mistake that when I started tapping into all of this, and we can talk about all the Claires. I love all the Claires. I even love women named Claire. I just love Claires. And And so when I was tapping into all of the clairs down the line, but it was no mistake that's when my work started getting better.
Right.
I started creating new things. I started a whole data program that doesn't sound very exciting, but it actually is, because this business doesn't have that. And I created it and made it happen. And, as a result of that, became a president at a motion picture studio. And I think I might be the only lesbian that's a president at a motion picture studio. I'm probably most certainly the only ghost photographer that is. But she saw these things happen, and I think that gave her, I think she identified with me more and saw what happiness that it brought me and her together.
And that is exactly what you just said, is something that you just said that beautifully. I read tarot cards during the day, and the creative energy, the channeling, like I know a lot of actresses don't realize that they're channeling. The really great actresses are channeling even more so than they are acting, and that energy flow, it's like you open yourself up to imagination, which I believe is a place, not a thing. I think it's a place that you channel through.
It is.
And everything. It's like, I think police officers don't realize sometimes how psychic they are, or it just helps everything that you do.
It does. And Karen, it's really funny. I'm going to tell you a really quick story about it.
You don't have to be quick about anything. You just keep talking,
good.
my friend.
How about I just tell you a story about it then? I think I've always been open to that, to channeling ideas and even knowing things about people that there's no rational reason why I should know it. I just didn't think I really understood what was happening at the time. But when I started to actually understand what was going on in the last, 4 or 5 years, I was in a meeting. And I'm going to tell you who I was in a meeting with, just because I think it's fun. It's not a name-dropping game, but it's just fun. I was sitting in a meeting with Jeffrey Katzenberg. Oh. And I admire Jeffrey, and I loved working with him. We would distribute all of his DreamWorks animation films. And we were in this meeting, and he looked at me, had a question. And rolling in my head was, oh, God, I can't, I didn't have an answer, or really it was a solution. And the second that my mouth opened, it might have been my voice, but it wasn't me speaking. It literally was like I was channeling this higher power that helped me out in a situation. And I sounded brilliant, I have to tell you. And it wasn't mine. Honestly, it was not mine. And that has happened multiple times where literally my mouth opens and something else comes out. And I'm like, oh, thank God you were there, whoever you are. It was just like this huge relief, and then I'll get ideas. There was not long ago, I sat and channeled a children's book called Billy Ghost. Wow. And it rhymes. And it was a channel, and it was within a couple hours that it all happened. I was scribbling. I couldn't write fast enough to get it all out.
And I didn't see that. Is that out yet, or that's in the works?
No, no, not yet. Okay. I'm really kind of busy, so I'm kind of sitting on it to see what I'm going to do with it. And but in there, I think I did talk about it because there was this really great kind of poetic protection paragraph for kids, and it was, "I am in charge of my space, my home, my body, my home base. If you are not here for the highest good of these, you are cordially invited to leave. You must go away from here, never come back, not even near. If you do not, you will not be gainful, as I am now calling on my guardian angel." Not mine, for the record.
But
it was like for kids to like protect themselves.
That has to come out.
I want it to. We will make it happen. Yeah. I'm still human, and I can only do so many things at once.
Right. The next generation, these indigo kids that are coming up, need to hear that.
And these rainbow kids, these rainbow babies. Oh my God, my godchild, who's 7 years old, is more advanced than any adult I've ever met. It's incredible. I love these kids coming up. It's like, yes, please be in charge of me and my people, because we're a bunch of morons compared to you.
I know. The next generation is going to get it right.
We are morons compared to them. Those kids of Parkland and Florida. It's like, be in charge of me, please.
Absolutely.
But so the ability to channel ideas, the ability to be open to it, and also I think they keep coming to me because I also don't claim them. Right? I mean, I will own them and do something with them, But I don't claim that I'm some genius, because I'm not. In many cases, I'm a vessel.
Right.
And even when there is an idea, I will say, hey, I got to tell you, I got to hit on this. Here's what I got to hit on, and here's what came to me. And I'll say that in the workplace. I have no problem saying, I got to hit. I don't think this is the right path. Right. Those kinds of things. Because I give them credit.
Just another thing that makes it sound like it's really nice to work in your office, and in that people should all be able to say that and kind of go, just do with this what you want, but I got to hit.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's part of that validation, that the reason that I did write the book, because, because I do, I've been fortunate, and I've worked my hiney off that I have a really great job. And I think that lends credibility to what this is. Some people say the Hollywood part of it, probably takes away from that, because there are some Hollywood haters out there. But it's a legitimate job and a legitimate business. Yeah. And I think it kind of keeps the book grounded, the fact that I deal in numbers, because part of my skepticism in the beginning was that what my part of the business does is we deal in hard facts. Mm-hmm. And there's no hard fact of me channeling something, right? I can't prove that. Now, when it actually turns out to be right, I do have a smirk on my face, but but I think just the legitimacy of my role in business, I wanted to be able to use that for people, people like us that are able to go out and they'll say, hey, this one, not a hippie, maybe an Okie, and we'll make fun of her later, but legit, real job, and she experienced all this stuff.
Yep.
I wanted to be, I want to be used. How about that? I want to be used. I'm going to offer myself out there to be used for folks to say, oh, we can talk about this. This person does.
Yes. And I, and two, it's so funny because I want to hear more of your experiences. I love this part. But it's always funny to me because I'm a comedian, so I'm out on the limb anyway. So nobody cares. So when I say, oh, I read tarot cards, everybody's like, well, of course you do. And, but everybody, it always amazes me who comes up after a show or whatever and has a ghost story. And it's never the one you think. I can see the person with crystals on their bracelet, and they'll be like, oh, that's ridiculous. And then the bank president comes up and goes, I saw a ghost once. So it really, I think Hollywood's job is to show this first, exactly like you're doing, so everybody else can go, yeah, I can talk about it now.
Karen, I will tell you what I have said for the last 3 or 4 years since I started seeing all these ghosts. When I start telling the stories of what I've experienced to people, like uninitiated, they cannot interrupt me fast enough to tell me theirs. Mm-hmm. And it is my great, I zip it and I listen, because their story is far more important for them to get it out of their body and into the universe than it is for me to finish mine.
Right. Right.
And they feel so much better. And then what happens? See, this is the best part, right? They get to say it. And then the next thing you know, our relationship has gone to another level. Right. We connected deeper. And that's really where the magic is, because we can talk about ghosts and fairies and aliens and all of this as part of our ecosystem, because they are. But when you are human, what matters when you are human are those relationships that you have with other humans. That is our job.
Yeah.
That is what we are here for. And if this can be a part of how we can connect that and connect it deeper, then we're doing our job. If you could only see me, I'm doing hand signals, and I'm like hitting my desk with my finger like anybody could see me. Yeah. But I had to make my point, because that is how this whole experience has changed me. It changed me to feel very humbled by the fact that I now have these abilities, and those abilities are things like I am clairaudient now. I am clairsentient. I am clairvoyant. I have what I call the smelly clair, which is a clair olfactory. Clairtaction. I have felt the physical weight of a ghost on me. I have hit so many of these, and I want to continue to feel those, because it actually makes life fun. But I think that what they've done is they've allowed me to be humbled by how big our world is and those things you can and cannot see, and also given me the stories to connect deeper with other humans.
Yeah. Sometimes your job is just to make sure other people don't feel crazy. You know what I mean? Like it happened to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Two of my favorite topics. Well, one is my favorite topic, which is clairaudient. I want to hear I love that. I have a few experiences with clairaudient, but that's my favorite. And then, sleep paralysis. You were talking about having a ghost on top of you. Those two, cause I'm going to let you take the stage. Tell me about those.
All right. Let's hit, these are two good ones. So with clairaudient, do you mind if I tell the story that happened to me on the 405? I can.
Love it. I love I know no one likes the 405. I like the 405. So this is just going to make it even better.
So, I commute, between 30 minutes and an hour every day to work, and I drive mostly on the 405. And those who aren't aware of the 405, it is LA's parking lot, even though it's a freeway. It is traveled, by roughly 500,000 people a day. And this one particular morning, I love to talk on my phone when I'm driving. I connect with people and I love it. I catch up with folks. So this particular morning, I'd called 5 different people and no one picked up the phone. And I find myself on the 405 around Sunset Boulevard. I don't think I have to explain that to people. They all know what Sunset is. And my radio was off, and I had my left hand on the wheel, and I hear, as clearly as you hear my voice right now, someone telling me, put your other hand on the wheel. So I did. And then I hear, if your phone rings, don't look at it. In fact, don't answer it. And then there was this beat, this pause. And the voice said, there's going to be an accident. So here I am driving down the 405, 10 and 2. And mind you, on the 405, there's no changing lanes, right? You are in your lane. And 60 seconds later, I know it's 60 seconds because I'm at Wilshire Boulevard then, and the 2 cars in my lane in front of me collide. So I pumped my brakes to make sure the folks behind me knew that something was happening. Then I slammed on mine to make sure I didn't hit the car in front of me. So I get out, check on them. I get back into my car, and I call Suzanne. I tell her what happened, and she goes, you're so calm. And I'm like, well, yeah. I was prepared. And she says, well, who do you think it was? She says, was it Mona? And so everybody knows Mona was one of our closest friends that was killed in a car accident 5 months after my mother passed. And in the car with her was her girlfriend at the time, as well as her sister Pam and her brother-in-law Steve. And Steve was actually thrown out of the car and sustains, to this day, permanent brain damage as a result of it. And so I said to Suzanne, no, it wasn't Mona, it was a man's voice. She said, well, who do you think it was? I'm like, I don't know. And she said, call Patricia. I said, all right. Well, Patricia is our very close friend that owns the Crystal Matrix in Atwater Village here in Los Angeles, and she's a brilliant channeler, psychic, goddess of all things. So I called Patricia, tell her the story, and she goes, oh, my, I've never heard such specificity on a message. And I go, what do you mean? And she goes, there was clearly you were instructed. And I said, well, who do you think it was? I was far more interested in finding who it was. And she goes, well, it must be your spirit guide. She says, we're born with spirit guides. They kind of nudge us as we move on in life if we're willing to pay attention and to listen and to communicate with them. And she goes, that's exactly what a spirit guide would do. And I said, well, it's a really good thing because I could have hurt that woman in the car in front of me. And she goes, oh, no, baby. It wasn't the other woman's life that your guide was saving. It was yours.
Wow.
And I went, oh. And then, after work, I called Pam, which is Mona's sister, who was also in the car. And I said, Pam, and I told her the story. She goes, do you want to hear the other half of your story? And I said, what? She goes, when you called this morning, I had the phone in bed with me, and I saw you calling, and I reached over to pick it up, but my body was paralyzed.
Wow.
And she said, just imagine what would have happened if I would have picked up your call. And I said, I'd be dead today. She says, yeah, you would. You'd be dead today. And the interesting part about that story is, there's a lot of interesting parts. One is I'm alive to talk today, but the other part of it is if you think about the collaboration, the coordination that happens on the other side in order for me to be sitting here today is wondrous. So my guide had to go communicate with who I believe was Pam's sister Mona, who actually held her down. and then had to distract the other 4 people who I called that morning so they wouldn't pick up the phone in order to take the chance for me to listen to that message that I got clairaudiently, that's a word, for me to hit my brakes.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people were busy. A lot of spirits were busy.
They were busy, but think about what's going on in this invisible world that you cannot see what's happening, but it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, clairaudience.
And that's the part that makes you understand that you are loved. If you are on this planet, you are loved.
Very much so.
And
very
also,
much so.
I think now Progressive Insurance has to have a category where you get a discount if you're clairaudient.
You know what? I think you're right.
Let's have that.
I think you're right. I also think that Apple should call me because they have their whole campaign shot on an iPhone. It's like I got 9,000 pictures of ghosts I shot on an iPhone. Somebody needs to give us a call, don't you think, Karen?
That's right. We know
we can do we can do a combo ad together.
We're spiritual people, but we know how to monetize at the same time.
I'm in marketing. So sleep paralysis. I'm going to go on a limb here, and I'm going to assume that at least one of your listeners has experienced sleep paralysis. And sleep paralysis, have you talked about it before? Do I need to tell folks what it is?
No, you're the first. Do it. I think it's, you have the whole, it's open to you. The whole topic is open to you.
Great. So thank you. I'll actually start out talking in movie terms. So for those that have seen Nightmare on Elm Street for Freddy Krueger, what they need to know is that Wes Craven actually has sleep paralysis, and Freddy Krueger represent what is called the Hat Man, that people that have sleep paralysis experience. And folks that have sleep paralysis are ones that they're awake, but they can't move. The way that I describe it is that if those that subscribe to the idea that we are humans or spirits having a human experience, that when you sleep, it is your body that sleeps, but your spirit doesn't need to. And when we go off into our astral plane and we party on, and during the night, when your spirit's trying to land back into your body, I think that it hasn't fully landed, and that's what is happening with sleep paralysis. And in that kind of void, what happens to people is it's a very frightening experience. So sometimes it's just an emotion that they feel. Sometimes it's visions that they see. And what is common amongst all of them is that they see this character, let's say, and it's looks like a man with a fedora. They don't see the features on his face, but they see a fedora. Sometimes he wears a coat or something like that. But what's common across everybody is that it scares the hell out of them. They are petrified during that time. And sometimes sleep paralysis can last 20, 30 minutes for people. And I did not know about sleep paralysis before my journey began. And I came across a handsome, beautiful-hearted man named Alex Van Camp that I hope when you read my book, you'll read about him, who I'm actually going to see tomorrow. That he had been suffering sleep paralysis since he was 9 years old, and he described it to me, and he's the one who kind of brought me into it. So I decided to do a lot of studying and research and work to figure out what was happening. And so what's interesting about the whole sleep paralysis experience that I had is that he wasn't the only one. There were, of course, when it rains, it snows. Or wait, is that it?
It pours?
It pours. It doesn't snow. It does in Tahoe. It snows in Tahoe. When it rains, it pours. And so other people came to me. But what I discovered because of my experience with crystals, because I'm now a certified transcrystal therapist, is I understood the power of a stone called black tourmaline. And I knew that black tourmaline was used by magicians in, hundreds, thousands of years ago to protect their space. And so I had given Alex a whole lot, if you will, of black tourmaline and said, keep it on your bedside, put it under your bed, take it with you when you travel. And the funny thing is that he never experienced it again.
Wow.
And I had other people, except one time when he forgot it, and I'm going to leave that story for the book for people to hear that. When the last time he actually saw the Hat Man, because I think it's worth the wait. But I've had people that I work with, people that I know socially, that are now coming out and saying, "Oh my gosh, I've had that." In fact, Alex posted he posted a picture of my galley on his Facebook and said that, he has a great privilege of being in this book and da-da-da-da, and he's mentioned sleep paralysis. There were no less than 20 or 30 people that posted on there, just friends in Facebook world, right? These are just friends. It's not a business Facebook. It's just a friendly Facebook, claiming that they have it or that their husband has it. And then he got twice as many direct messages of people who didn't want to post publicly, and how could he help them. This is a real thing. And they do medical trials, there are medical journals, and people like to tell you that's a figment of your imagination, or there's something that your brain is doing, all this kind of stuff. But I am telling you, and I don't think anybody will sue me for this, but I do not believe that it is a medical condition. I completely believe that it is a spiritual condition. And I believe that you must have other things to protect you from it. And one, I think, is black tourmaline. The other thing I think that you have to do is that you must have a ritual of prayer that protects you, whether you believe in God or not. If there's a higher source, use that. I'm a big fan of the Lord's Prayer. It has helped me out a ton. There are some that are non-God related that people can find, but if you protect yourself before you go to rest, and then if that guy shows up in the middle of your sleep, you call on a higher power, and St. Michael is a good one, and can help you get out of that. But you need to ask for help. You need to have protection so you don't have to deal with that guy again.
And two things on that. That is great. And also, people don't realize when I go to houses to help people that have something in their house, is it's ritual, and they do it 2 or 3 times, and then they call back and go, "I don't know why it didn't work." And I'm like, it's a ritual. You do it.
It's a practice.
Yeah. The more you do it. And I always tell people, black tourmaline is, great for protection, especially when you use it with lavender oil and a taser gun. It's perfect.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I have a baseball bat. That's my other. I have black tourmaline. I have a baseball bat. That's all I got.
We're going to take a quick break for a sponsor, and then we got to get into transcrystal therapists. Okay? Hold on 1 second. People are always asking me, "Karen, you are so knowledgeable about tarot, ghosts, and otherworldly spirits. How do you stay so organized and grounded here on Earth?" And I have to tell them my secret weapon. It's black tourmaline. And Nita over at nitaapple.com. After years of complaining about all the text messages and emails back and forth, trying to schedule tarot readings and chasing after payments, Nita installed Acuity Scheduler on my website, and now I just get a little ding on my phone, and that tells me someone has made an appointment and the money is already in my account. I love that little ding, except every time it goes off, Courage runs to his food bowl. 5 minutes with Nita can save you 5 hours of bumbling around and trying to do things yourself. So if you spend 10 minutes with her, that'll save you like 72 hours or something like that. I don't know. I'm not good with math, but you know who is? Nita. That's who I would ask. Want to end all the emails back and forth and get paid up front when clients schedule time with you? Then hop on over to nitaapple.com/services. And let Nita get you set up with a simple system that will make your life so much easier. Use coupon code BOO4U and get 20% off any products or services. She's got a lot of services and products that can save you time and money. That's BOO4U, all lowercase, BOO, the number 4, the letter U, and get 20% off. That's Nita Apple at nitaapple.com/services. nitaapple.com/services, and make your life easier today. Okay, the book is The Ghost Photographer. We're talking to Julie Rieger. Julie, tell me, you said you're a transcrystal therapist. Tell me about that.
Yes, that was... I got into crystals and stones early into my journey, and it was for anyone who is actually dealing with grief, or people dealing with grief. It's such a it's such a great entry into a healing path for yourself. I first time I walked into a place called the Crystal Matrix, I felt like I was at home.
Is that in? I think I have been there. Is that out Burbank Way, or you? I can't think.
It is out Burbank Way. You are. It's in that direction. It's kind of it's Pasadena-ish.
Got it.
In a neighborhood called Atwood Village, and it is. It's magical there, and Patricia Bankins, who's the owner. And now a very dear friend, she had classes, and you started with like an intro into chakras and stones to understand the corresponding stone to a chakra, and through the class, I had no idea, right? I mean, I had no idea about any of this stuff, honestly, I was getting myself into, but I had no idea that it was going to be like a counseling session for 8 weeks, really having to journey into your own issues, because if you have a closed first chakra, you have some family issues. You have some issues about feeling safe at home. Right. And then you start learning about your second chakra, the seat of our emotions. You start learning about your ego in the third, and your heart and love in the fourth, and speaking in your fifth, and visions in your sixth, and your connection to a higher power in your seventh, and all the stones. And all of those need work. And so I had no idea that that's what was going to happen, but I loved every second of it. And every week we had homework. So I remember when we did the throat chakra, the corresponding stone was blue lace agate. And I would have a team meeting with my group every week, and every week I would tell them what stone I was working on and what my homework was. And isn't that great? And it sounds like it sounds like I am kind of a hippie, but I'm not. A closeted hippie. The blue lace agate was the throat chakra, and I told them what my homework was, that I was not to interrupt anyone, and if anyone was to interrupt me, that I would have to let them finish, then I would have to pick up where I left off. And feeling that energy and that assistance from the stones helped me heal already so much of what I was dealing with. Not just the grief of losing my mother, but, grief of my life.
Right.
Started with that. And then once you learn about yourself, obviously you start to heal, because that's the only time you can actually start helping others, is that it started moving into the laying of stones on the physical body. And that's where I first was able to start giving back and understanding things like how we bring in physical illness and injuries and pain into our body from our emotional body. And that's where I started to learn and understand that, and starting how to understand that with myself. Very Louise Hay, by the way. So those folks that read Louise Hay, this is very much in line with her Heal Your Body.
Right.
And the stones were to help facilitate moving that energy, out of your body that you didn't need, and to bring in the energy that you did need. So that's where I really learned about the stones and learned about the body. You would think I would know more about the body, but in Oklahoma we didn't have the best education system, so I have to admit I didn't know everything that I should have. I got the kidneys and the lungs mixed up, but I did learn the truth where they do belong from this class. But that's really where I found a lot of my own power, right? And not only being to help folks, but also to help myself. And I do have, some interesting stories of where, I was able to find, I call them gray areas, on people's body that they end up having them checked out by their medical doctor. And a few people, actually, their lives were saved. Not to act like I'm some second coming of anything, because I'm not, but I was able to help them, hone in and narrow down and go get it figured out.
Right. Medical intuitive. Yeah.
And yeah, very much so. And I would never, ever suggest to anyone that they do one or the other. I think you must always do both. Right. I'm saddened by those who feel they should only go down the medical route and not go down the spiritual route at the same time, but that is their choice. But I would suggest to anybody to always go both. Because I think there's benefits, right, to both of them. Because if you don't deal with the emotional stuff, the physical body is going to have a rougher time, bouncing back.
Right. And I it's a kind of a weird segue, but I don't think people understand that life is not just about sitting on the couch. Like, everything has work, and you keep up with it, whether it's your spiritual practice or, right. Like this. Yeah, you got to keep up with, I guess I'll just leave that. You got to keep up. Yeah.
Well, I have several rules that I have imposed on myself in life. And one of my rules is that every day I shall do something good for my body and good for my soul.
That's
every
great.
single day. And so this morning I swam. And so that was good for my body. It actually is good for both, but we're going to call it good for my body. And then I'm talking to you, and that is good for my soul.
And I have to tell you, it's a synchronicity. What you just said is exactly what a friend of mine said to me earlier today. That almost your exact words. He said, I try to do something for my heart, my mind, and my body every day. Unbelievable. I've never heard that before. I heard it twice today now. I guess I better listen.
Well, there you go. Today is August 30th.
Yes.
So today's the day you heard it twice.
Perfect. So I guess everybody else has to hear it. So there, wonderful. Yeah, that's a great rule.
Yeah, it is. It works. It works very well for me because it keeps me focused. You know, I do have prayers of gratitude every night. And that's part of my ritual. I burn a piece of Palo Santo because I love the smell.
Mm-hmm.
But it gives me a time, right? It gives me a time to move things out. It gives me time to bring things in. And I am grateful every night for the extra day I got. Right. Because one thing I have been told is that we're only guaranteed right now. Like right this second. Where you and I are talking, we're only guaranteed right now. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. So I'm grateful every time I have a whole new day.
Yeah.
So I always do that, and I always have gratitude to my ancestors. You know, my mother, listen, I have a conga line of dead people that follow me around every day. Like you wouldn't believe the long line that I have, and I am grateful that I have them. I'm grateful I had them in life, and I'm grateful that I have them in death.
Yeah, I feel like every day when I wake up and I see my puppy at the end of the bed, I'm like, that's the beauty that reminds me. Just my little guy. He's 14 and he is the love of my life. And I just think, I thank the universe for every day that I get to see that face.
And what is your puppy's name?
Courage.
Oh, I love that.
Little 8-pound Papillon. And,
that's fantastic. And dogs show us unconditional love.
Yeah.
They are such a perfect embodiment of unconditional love. I have a puppy that if I walk out to get the mail and I come back, she acts like I've been gone 100 years. And it's the greatest feeling ever. Are you kidding? It's like to live life like that. It's like, where have you been, Mother? I mean, it was truly like a minute. I was gone. It's fantastic.
Yes, that enthusiasm if we all could have. And I don't want to keep you here all day, but I want to...
Please keep me here all day. Ask me as many questions as you want.
You take ghost photos completely differently than I do. Tell the folks how you do it. And that is in the back of the book. It was great to just look and see what you do. You tell everybody about that.
I thank you for asking me this because it was by accident, which not by accident. You know how that happens. Accident, but not really. So when I first had my first ghost photograph, it was out of our kitchen window, and folks can read the story on how that happened. And so I thought I opened a ghost portal at our house, and I was kind of freaked out because not only had I seen poltergeist, the studio I worked for made poltergeist.
Oh, wow.
And so I wasn't ready for, Julianne, come to the light. I was like, oh my God, what have I done? So I knew enough to buy loads and loads of sage, and I still have it, this really great sage pot that I would walk around the perimeter of our property with I call him my shaman dog, Homer, who's now a 10-year-old lab, and I would, talk to my mom and ask her to protect our space and please close the portal. I didn't know what I was doing. I luckily had Brenda by my side, but I still didn't know what I was doing. I mean, the only reason I didn't run up and down the hall, up and down the road screaming, hide your kids, hide your wife, we got ghosts, is because I had Brenda. But still.
Yeah.
Still a little like thinking I did something, really bad. So one day when I was burning the sage, I had a lot left in the pot, and so I just sat outside with Homer, and I sat it down on a table, and, I just got my phone out, and I looked at it, and I started taking pictures. Of the smoke. And then when I started looking at the photographs, the craziest thing I saw and found was what it would look like is that the spirits, the ghosts, these energies would pull the smoke around their shape, and then I could see their shape better. And and you'll see in the book, I mean, there are pictures where a plume of smoke, and it looks like, a Brutus head is popping out of a plume of smoke because it pulled, it let the smoke show me its energetic image. And so then I started lighting that stuff every night. I've gone through thousands of dollars worth of sage, I got to confess, Karen. I mean, it's been kind of crazy. Sounds like, another sage bill. And I have a whole line item on QuickBooks, which is sage. So I started, going out and, at night and lighting this sage and taking these photographs. And every night I would have, 100 pictures or so and have at least 5 or 10 of them be really clear on what their image was. And it even worked with Palo Santo.
I love Palo Santo, yeah.
Oh, I love it so much that I have a photo in there. I actually don't think it's in the book, but I will have all these available on my website. Where it looks like the character from Mad Magazine, kinda, with like spiky hair. Was a Palo Santo picture, and the only smoke you see is really his image. It's crazy.
And the book does a really good job of diagramming what you're talking about, so that it's really great.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed the looking through the photos and everything in the back. It was just terrific.
Thank you. Thank you. And I have many more for folks, so they should go to julierieger.com, and I'll have a bunch loaded up there.
And spell that. Julie.
Julierieger. Because my only claim to fame for my last name, Rieger, is Alex Rieger from the show Taxi. No one else knows that name except for his fictional character, Judd Hirsch's character on Taxi.
Oh, that's great. Well, listen,
anybody under 50 has no idea what I was talking about.
I know. That's why I was saying the same thing. We our age snuck out. Well, the book is wonderful. People send me books all the time, and I am it really was just delightful, easy written. Folks, it comes out October 9th. You can get it on Amazon. You can pre-order it today, which I think is coming out on the 6th. I think now we're in the future time. I'm in my psychic future time of my podcast. It is terrific. Pick it up. Julie, your website, spell it one more time.
It is www.julierieger.com.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This was a delight. And
Karen, thank you.
Wonderful. And everybody, thanks for tuning in. I got some dates to push. I will be at Flappers in Burbank doing the Halloween tarot comedy show with Lamont Ferguson. You can get tickets now. We have a blast. I make a new CD there every year. Also, my website, Paranormal Karen or karenrontowski.com. You can sponsor the show if you like. There's a place where we can put an ad on for you. You can be a sponsor. Follow me on Facebook. What else do I have to say here? Thanks to Mike at Uno Rising Media. I always forget all my things at the end. Oh, send me your ghost stories, conspiracies. I have some great stories coming up. People have their stories of being possessed. I'm going to make my sister read those with me on the air. Everybody, thanks. Can you give me a 5-star review wherever you listen? And we'll see you next time. People are always asking me, Karen, you are so knowledgeable about tarot, ghosts, and otherworldly spirits. How do you stay so organized and grounded here on Earth? And I have to tell them my secret weapon. It's black tourmaline. And Nita over at nitaapple.com. After years of complaining about all the text messages and emails back and forth, trying to schedule tarot readings and chasing after payments, Nita installed Acuity Scheduler on my website, and now I just get a little ding on my phone, and that tells me someone has made an appointment and the money is already in my account. I love that little ding, except every time it goes off, Courage runs to his food bowl. 5 minutes with Nita can save you 5 hours of bumbling around and trying to do things yourself. So if you spend 10 minutes with her, that'll save you like 72 hours or something like that. I don't know. I'm not good with math, but you know who is? Nita. That's who I would ask. Want to end all the emails back and forth and get paid up front when clients schedule time with you? Then hop on over to nitaapple.com/services and let Nita get you set up with a simple system that will make your life so much easier. Use coupon code BOO4U and get 20% off any products or services. She's got a lot of services and products that can save you time and money. That's BOO4U, all lowercase, BOO, the number 4, the letter U, and get 20% off. That's Nita Apple at nitaapple.com/services. NITAAPPLE.com/services, and make your life easier today.